Okay, here we go. This is the last part that we're going to do. We have the fence layer that we just made, and you can see turning it on and off. It's on top of the truck layer, so of course it's going to show above the truck. So what we can do is put a mask on it, but since the mask is white, the layer is showing through. So we need to hide that, so we just click on the mask and click on invert, and it'll turn it black, or you can just do Control I. And that will invert it as well too while the mask is selected. Now we're going to just do make a path with the pen tool, and there's lots of ways to like mask this out, but I prefer the pen tool for a lot of reasons, and one of them is that you have a selection that you can go back to and use again. I mean, when you do a mask, you have the mask, but I like the pen tool so you can just redo it. So I'm just going to go around selecting with the pen tool. Now when you're using the pen tool, there's a couple of things to know. I mean, I don't use it that much. I'm not that good at it, but what I do know, I'll let you know as well. When you're clicking on it, if you look at the whatever object you're clicking on, you'll see that it's got like a feather to it. Like it's not necessarily one straight line. It's like blurred a little bit. So when you see me clicking on this, I'm clicking inside of the object that I want. I think I'm going to zoom up to it in a little bit and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you click on the inside of what you're selecting by like a couple of pixels, or where it's like just starting to blur, when you make your selection, it'll be, and you feather it, it'll be better because it won't have any of the contaminated colors from whatever is outside of your selection. So here I'm just trying to go as close to the edge as possible without getting colors that I don't want into the selection. So I'm making the selection. It's a rough selection. I didn't spend much time on it. You can see how much time I spend on it. So here we go. I'm just doing it. It's a slow process, but like I said, the pen tool I prefer because it makes it a lot easier to go back to that selection. And since I know I'm going to be using this selection more than once, I'm using it. So let's see. I'm selecting just inside all of it. I mean, it's not that big. You can't see it. But I think I did zoom up in here to get a good look at it. Notice I'm always selecting just points. When you click on one point and then you click to the next point, it makes a straight line. So when there's a curve, you'll put down more points, or you can use the pen tool has an option to pull it out and curve it. I don't actually know how to use that well, so I'm not using it. I hardly ever make selections like this. I'll fight with it for a minute before I go to the pen tool. I'll do all sorts of stuff, but for this I'm just going to use the pen tool and go through. It's black and white. Should be easy. And I'm selecting above the area that I know the fence is going to be, because I know I still have to clone some trees over and make a tree line, so that's why it's going all the way up here. And you'll see in a minute. I'm just going to go and call it a day, because that's as far as I want the bush that I'm going to be moving to going. So I just dropped some points so I can come back around to the end. Once you put it at the end, there's a little circle on the pen tool that shows you that that's the end of it. So when I'm done making the selection, I just hit selection at the top for the pen tool. It'll ask you if you want a feather. I usually say yes. Anti-alias means that it goes with the flow of the image. It'll like have a blur. So here's your selection. If you paint on that mask with white, you'll be showing that layer. But we don't want to show this layer. We want to hide this layer. So what I'm gonna do is invert this selection. You can see what it's doing. So there's the mask. I can't invert it because it's a selection. I can't invert the mask, so I'm going to invert the selection itself. So I go up to select, inverse. Now you look at the image, you'll see the marching ants around the edge as well as around the selection I made. So now when I paint with white, everything seems to be showing that layer, but I'm going to select inverse again and then paint inside the selection with black to hide it inside the selection. And so there you have the truck untouched by this fence. Oh, and here's your path that you can go back to and use for selection later when I'm going to be doing the fence. So that's why I did that, so I can save it for later. So I just deselect, go back. I don't want this path, so I'm going to click off of it. It's saved in there, so I can go back and get it whenever I want. So there's my fence. It's pretty simple, using the pen tool and the mask. White shows the layer that you're masking, black shows everything underneath. So there's a couple of spots left here that I want to clean up. It's not that big of a deal, but it's there and I know it's there, so I'm just going to clean it up anyway. I'm going to paint with white so that the layer that I'm on masking shows up, so the fence comes through. And that's pretty much it. The fence is in place. The only thing left now is that the feet on the ground, and I'll just clone those out. See, there's what you would have with the mask and without the mask. If you shift click on the mask, it'll turn it off and on. So then I'm just going to go down here and clone this out. It's not exactly like I wanted it because I was messing around last night and I lost my original fence that I was working on and ended up saving the TIFF file without it, so I had to redo all of that, so the fence doesn't look the same. And my black spot is gone that I wanted on the bottom. I'm not gonna be too worried about it right now. This is just showing how I did it, I guess. So I'm like contemplating leaving a little bit of the black, so I did. You zoom out, you can still see it looks pretty good, so I'm happy with that for now. If I really wanted to, I could go back in and redo the fence and everything, but that's too much trouble. Alright, now comes the not so tough part. I'm gonna go back and get my path. I'm gonna make a selection out of it. Alright, when you want to make a selection out of a path, there's that little dot button right there. I don't know what they call it. It says make a selection. You click on that and it makes a selection. And I'm going to select inverse. And you can do a lot of things with this. So click on the mask. I'm deselected. I'm trying to figure it out as I go right here. So I want to get rid of this house now and go to clone tool. It was at 1 pixel, so now I'm going to make it huge. I'm going to take this tree and try to match it up over there so it looks like the complete tree. That's good enough. I'm like clicking it, but I'm not realizing that my mask is black. So I see that and I'm like, oh, there's where I'm masking, so I'll just wipe it out. So if I paint on the mask with white, it'll show what I just did. And I'm trying to paint where I want it to show up. And I'm just going to go back to the clone stamp and move this tree from over here. Notice if you get too close to the truck, you'll be painting on the truck. I'm like putting it down, but I'm not seeing it because I'm painting on the mask. and the mask is going to be black if I clone black onto the black. So that's what's happening right here. I'm hiding it still. I'm going to realize that in a couple of seconds and go back to my mask and be like, what the hell is that? It's supposed to be white, so I'm just going to paint it in white. Paint it in, and so you can see. And I'm painting actually over the truck a little bit because I have that path that I can always go back to and hide it again. So I'm just trying to put this trees where I think it would be. Usually when you look, the way I'm thinking in my head is usually when you look across a fence, if the tree is not hanging over the fence, there'll be some shadows beyond the fence line. So I'm trying to like mimic that somewhat, make it look realistic as possible, because that's what we're trying to do. And I'm just going to toss some trees in for the hell of it, and bushes, and put this back because that's. And then I'm trying to find something to cover up this white. So I'm looking, I'm like, where can I get it from? Remember, we're trying to make it look not fake. So I found a little piece that might work, so I took it. And I'm trying to build that skyline up so it looks believable. So I'm just grabbing textures and throwing them in there. It looks like a tree with another tree in the background, and then for the last bit, I'm just going to clone out that, and there you go. It's almost done. There's only one little piece left, and that's this thing right here. You can see the fence has got some white on it because my selection, I didn't use a selection to do it. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm gonna do here. So I'm loading back up my selection from the path. I'm just gonna inverse it again and just click wherever I want. Notice while I'm clicking it, it's not coming over onto the truck because I selected just that part. So here I'm trying to line up the fence, and I'm like, this is taking forever. I'm never gonna get it right. So I'm like, alright, fine. I'll just deselect and make another selection and get rid of the fence. Now this selection that I'm making is just so I can throw it in there. Notice I select inverse again, so that I'm not selecting the actual fence, I'm selecting outside of it. So I'm just going to put this here, and you'll see it won't be painting inside that selection. So I'm just trying to mimic that shadow again, or that dark area at the fence. I know this video was longer than the rest, but I think that it needed it to be this low in order for you to see what was going on. There was more going on than just cloning out stuff. So that's it, and I'm just cleaning it back up, painting back in the truck where I want it, and that's it. There we go. Deselect and check out working to finished.